Mr. Bone for having a whole sponsor, and Mr. Minner for continuing city financial support. We are a nonprofit, and all extra funds raised are given to girls or boys not a part of the program. This year, we gave 7 scholarships to graduating seniors, 2 at Leesburg High School, 3 at First Academy, and 2 at the Villages Charter School. Today is an honor to be presented our certificates by Mayor Dan Roebuck. He was Miss Linda's pre-K class, and she is very proud of him and of all of us. Through the Miss Leesburg Scholarship Program, I've been able to build relationships with people in the community, and I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to hear about pre-K.
Unfortunately, on this next presentation, it's an honor to recognize, but also very sad to pay a tribute to one of our fallen employees, LaDonna Green. LaDonna was a friend to many who worked here at the city, was a fantastic employee, and unfortunately she lost her battle with cancer after a hard fight, and she worked almost 30 years for the city. And like I said, she was a friend to many and really benefited our organization. So I think really in a paying tribute, I'd like to call on our HR director, Melissa Arriaga, and our new benefits coordinator, Carr West. Also kind of tip my hat here to Jackie, our former HR director, Jackie Perry, who also worked with LaDonna. So to see all these folks come back to recognize LaDonna is really a tribute to her. So without further ado, I think it's most fitting for Cara and Melissa to recognize her. And there's some members of LaDonna's family here today.
I'd like to direct my words to Miss Lily Green. We just want to thank you very much for giving us such a wonderful human being. We enjoyed working with her daily. It was our honor. It was a pleasure. So thank you so much for raising such a wonderful person who brought so much joy to our lives. And she will be missed always. We will always remember her, and we will always honor the employee that she was, the human being that she was. Not a day goes by that we don't talk about her, that we don't remember something about her. And we always say, what would LaDonna do? How would she want us to handle this? Because to her, giving the best customer service to our employees was so important. So there's so much I could say, but I just want to tell you thank you. Thank you so much. It was such an honor to work with her, and we will always miss her, and we'll always love her. So with that being said, we'd like to present on behalf of the mayor, the commissioners, and the city manager, and human resources, and many of the employees and friends that she had here. We'd like to honor you with this plaque on her behalf, and Cara would like to do the honors of having the family come up. If Yolanda and Audrey would come up and receive the award on behalf of your mother. So thank you so much on behalf of all of us. Our previous director who had the honor of hiring her. If it wasn't for hiring her, we wouldn't have had the pleasure of working with her. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we are now going to move into our consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commissioner or staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the item from the consent agenda. 2, vote on remaining items with 1 roll call vote. 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Do you have any items that need to be pulled?
None for me.
None for me, but could I make a comment
Of course.
after we get into this?
Okay, we do need to pull 4B3.
Oh, okay.
For,
I'll wait till that then, because it's about purchasing.
okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve all remaining items.
Second.
Any comments? Comments from the public? Roll call?
Commissioner Bone?
Yes.
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Mayor Robuck?
Yes. So now 4B3, you want us to table it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if someone could introduce.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a professional services agreement for engineering services related to the electric utility on a continuing basis with Power Engineers, Inc., and providing an effective date.
Move the table.
Second.
And this is just a procedural thing. We need a document back, so once we have that, we can. So would you like to go ahead and make your comments now?
I just want to thank the purchasing department for, first of all, the first item that we had and the amount of work that you put into that, fully clarifying reasons for the decision and whatnot. It's probably one of the best purchasing items that I've seen since I've been here. And second, I'd like to thank you for catching that mistake and correcting that situation as well with the other item. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Roll call?
Commissioner Christian?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Dennison?
Yes.
Commissioner Bone?
Yes.
Mayor Robuck?
Yes. So now on to our resolutions for C1, if someone would like to introduce.
Introduce has to be read by title only.
Oh, is that on consent?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's all.
Yeah.
oh, we don't have any.
That's right.
Yeah,
Wow.
we're down to-
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So, any
Good
informational
job, man.
reports?
Good job.
No. Okay. City attorney items.
Never stand in the way of a speeding train.
Absolutely. City manager items.
I'll take the advice of the city attorney.
Okay, public comments. Section reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or be scheduled for consideration at a future city commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment?
Of course.
Don Luckage. I'd just like to ask the city manager, has any more consideration been given to put a doggy park in Henderson Park?
I mean, that's really a commission matter, so the commission has given us direction on that.
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dog park where?
In Henderson,
In Henderson Park.
We have that
Yeah,
land
we'll have more discussion on that as we get into the budget process. I think the
Yeah,
commission
maybe we could
talked
bring
about
that-
that a little bit.
Last
About
year,
dog
Want to
parks.
agendize
yeah,
that
and last
item?
year we had the plan that was brought, and we went with the one piece to do the playground.
Right.
Maybe if we have a discussion on it, you can
Okay.
bring that plan back.
I'll bring
Yeah.
it back.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's all tonight. I just wanted to ask.
Thank you. Okay.
Of course, I'd like to see you open the boat ramp, Henderson Park. Hey, the whole city, with their utility profits and taxes paid for that park, why not open an asset that they paid for? Thank you.
Well, the park is open and it's being enjoyed and used, so it's
I'm
every
speaking
time I
of
go-
the boat ramp, Commissioner.
I did see a couple kids fishing yesterday off the boat ramp. Well, proposed ramp. They were sitting on the edge fishing.
Can't hear you. You're mumbling.
I did see a couple young people fishing. They a truck was there and they were on the edge fishing off the old boat ramp. So they were doing it. So I don't know if we get more discussion on the boat ramp, but I did see people using it to fish.
Yeah, but the boat ramp's got a big chain across it. I don't know why you don't open it up
I think we've had this
We keep
conversation.
talking about the
Yeah,
boat
we've
ramp.
had this
I mean,
conversation
it's
plenty of
every meeting.
times.
Can we stop talking
can-
about the boat ramp? I mean,
Yeah,
there's a
I mean-
park, there's a playground, there's people fishing, there's people walking and having fun out there. I think there's a carnival being planned and to do something out there. So it's a park.
Okay, any other public comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Dennison,
Not tonight, thank you.
Commissioner Hurley,
Yeah, I think actually Don Luckage is running for office so he can work on the boat ramp. But I want to say how happy I am that we have Don Luckage and Mike Peterson who are running for seats this year. And I really just want to go on record to say this for all the naysayers. I hope word gets out there and the press will print it. But I think it's pretty sad. When I ran 2 years ago, I went uncontested, and Commissioner Christians went uncontested, Mike Peterson's uncontested, and you're having entertainment. And I just think that's pretty sad that many people voice their opinions and criticize everything we do, and nobody ever wants to put their hat in the ring to try to make a difference. So I kind of have this to say: if you don't want to put your hat in the ring, keep your opinion to yourself with me. So thank you very much. That's all I had, Mayor.
Commissioner Christian.
Well, I want to thank the citizens of Leesburg for believing in me and allowing me to serve an additional 4 years. It is an honor and a privilege to serve the city where I was born and raised, to make decisions and changes. Obviously a little different. I think you got 25 people that complain. The other 20+ thousand think we're doing a great job. So that's how
I was talking about the 25.
I just want to thank, and I think the staff doing well. I think we got a great commission, great changes happening in Leesburg, and I think with the economy doing what it's doing, Leesburg is profiting for just the great decision we've been making. So again, thank you, and I did run uncontested.
I know. Everybody's scared.
Commissioner Bone.
Commissioner Hurley, I hope you'll listen to me when I come to the podium and
For you,
talk to you
yeah.
next
Just
next time.
don't complain.
Since I
Don't
didn't run,
complain.
not running again. I can still come complain. I
Yeah.
can't complain.
Stay home.
But I still got a lot to say.
Email us.
So just a couple things, and I'll catch up with Al about this, but I did meet with Mr. Walling a little bit, so I've got a little bit of update about maybe that other entryway.
He sent me his site plan.
Okay, and I got a little more detail on it too. So so I think he is interested in working with the city to see. Well, he's got some things that are happening there, so I don't want to speak for him, but he's got some things that are happening. I think there's going to be a new commercial use right there on 440 on 27 real soon next to Popeyes, right? And but what that's going to do is it's going to bring the I guess I can pass.
I know you had plans.
I can pass this around a little bit, but it's going to bring the entryway in around. They will definitely be bringing a road in that will come across by the trail, the bicycle trail there. And when they do that, it's right now they don't have to go. Phone's going off here. Updates. So when they bring that in, they're right now they'll only have to go a certain distance to service that one use, but potentially it could come around, and then as it comes around, there's an open area. I think out where that was the one that was a little bit in question whether that was still something that was of interest for to be donated to the city, and it's open to discussion about that. And then so what would happen is if you bring this road in, then it could be brought around and potentially brought in through around the old little pond there to make an entryway into Susan Street. So I think if he sent this to you, so it's a public record. It's a public record anyway, so we could I can pass that around.
Commissioner, was there any discussion of that 15-foot strip that's owned by a third party?
There's a little bit now. I think Bill, is that the one Bill Coffin?
Yes.
That's Bill Coffin has.
It's a company that he's involved with.
Yeah, obviously he can't speak for Bill, but it seemed like that was something that was, he thought Bill would be open to doing something. And then there may be some other property around there as well that's another individual that may own. But it seems like a good possibility. I really think having an entryway off of 27 into Susan Street would be great. And if we're doing a master concept plan for Susan Street, if maybe that can be taken into consideration on how they can do that. Because he wants to take that road, I think, and have some connections to the bicycle trail as well there. So, but I can we'll talk more about that then. And I have other things, but we'll keep it short tonight. I would like to talk a little bit more about the neighborhood improvements and some of the things that we've talked about a little bit about the about yards and upkeep and parking and that kind of thing. But we'll do that another night, not be long. And that's all I have.
Mayor Rubik.
I attended along with Commissioner Hurley the education breakfast for the teachers and staff, and that was once again just a phenomenal event. I think Commissioner Hurley, of course, got the biggest applause. It might have had something to do with the free car that Athens gives to Teacher of the Year, but but it was a great event. So appreciate the chamber putting that on. And then I just want to say I'm sure a lot of people saw Commissioner Bone wrote an op-ed about the statue issue, and I thought it was very well written, very poignant, and I was just very disappointed with the reaction it got. Whether you agree with you or not, that there were some pretty, I think, awful things, but that's Facebook. But I just, I don't think that's what Leesburg is, and hopefully many of those people don't even live here. But thank you for putting that view out there. I think it was good. So.
And Mr. Mayor, I'm on the committee that's going to talk about the statue. So I think there are going to be 5 people from the African American community and 5 from the Historical Society. So we're going to be meeting, talking about what it means. Is it something that Lake County really wants? And I've asked Al, some of the cities are actually drafting a resolution saying, hey, this may not be a good fit for Lake County. So I think Al's going to try to bring that next meeting.
Yeah, and on that note, I had actually obviously the General Smith issue's been getting a lot of talk, and I think good talk. And towards that end, the city managers had met on this topic and had an impromptu conversation. And John Drury, the city manager in Tavares, obviously had a lot to provide the input on the history of the statue and these type of things, being in Tavares, the county seat where it's happening. So at Commissioner Christian's request, I, through that conversation, had some dialogue with Mr. Drury. To date, there isn't a resolution put together yet, but at the Commissioner's request, I will get something put together. If there was one put together, I was hoping to have it for this meeting, but we'll be working on that next 2 weeks, and I will have something agendized for your consideration for the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And the last thing, and I won't go into it in detail, but Commissioner Bowman mentioned the neighborhood program, and we talked during budget about a 3rd code enforcement official, and I think there was some talk about, are we going too far, not far enough? And one thing that I think maybe we could do with that 3rd position would be to, if we had that rental property ordinance that we talked about and kind of really tried to focus them on how we manage rental properties in Leesburg, because that seems to be a big problem. I think everyone on the commission's brought it up at one time or another, so maybe that would be some common ground.
And Mayor, if I can just add to that, that's because it does kind of relate to some of the other things I was going to bring up, but I think the police department recently went into a home, a rental property for particular police purposes, and it turns out there was 15 people, adults sleeping in the house. I did start looking around a little bit at just Google-wise about ordinances related to rental properties, and I know we have some issues in our rental thing, but one of those I found is particularly up in New Jersey, that they had addressed the number of adults that can live in what is a single-family house, and that's a real sticky issue, and how you define that. But I found some where cases had been supporting a definition of a family that did allow some restrictions on the number of the number or the manner in which people live in a residence that would address a situation like that. And I don't think that's an isolated incident, that this one particular house that has 15 adults living in it, spread out. So it has to do with how many people can be per square foot of the house or something like that, I think.
The impediment to that type of ordinance is generally the group home or the rehab house or something, which federal law pretty much says even if you don't like it, you have to have it.
This particular house is one in Stock subdivision where people are it's a neighborhood that has some challenges there, and particularly I've received phone calls from some neighbors of that particular house several times that were real concerned about just the amount of traffic that was coming in there and the loudness and things that would come out of it. And if you can imagine 15 young adults living in one of those small houses in Stock subdivision, it could be a detriment to the neighbors there. So
that's a great idea. And the last thing, and this is just, so we already have an ordinance called a nuisance abatement board, which I guess allows us to target homes with like multiple crimes and kind of another layer on top of code enforcement where we could maybe take some property back. And my understanding was passed in 2010, but we haven't used it in a long time, possibly because prior commissions haven't really wanted to go that route. But so I was hoping that everyone could get familiar before the next meeting, and then we could talk about, do we want to say, hey, let's use that tool?
Al, can you email that to us so we can look at it? I know Fred used it on a commercial building that was having some issues up on Maine one time a few years ago.
It may have been used once down on East Magnolia, I think.
Yeah, Eastern Maine.
Mayor, may I ask a question? I forgot earlier. But we've always had, when we're doing budgets, where we sit down, each department head sat down and we went through their particular budget. This year we didn't do that. I don't know if that's something that we were doing later, but I thought we pretty much had wrapped up everything except for approving it.
Yeah, no, we quasi did that process. You guys didn't have too many questions when we got into the individual budgets. If you want to set up some time, or if you want to discuss some particular items in the budget, I can agendize that. And we've got, I think, like 2 regular meetings before we do our first reading. So if you want to re-review something, let me know and I'll get it agendized if you have something specific in mind.
Well, mine would probably be the fire department.
Okay.
I think there was some things that was requested that we never even knew were requested.
Okay, if you guys, I'll get that. If you guys want to take a special look at the fire department, I'll get that on the next agenda.
Meeting adjourned.
Yes, sir.